Hello, welcome to the Believe Show. Today we have Alicia Booker with us, and let me tell you a little bit about Alicia. Alicia is a certified personal and executive coach. She's an author and a speaker. In her first memoir, which is here on the screen, Alicia shares her journey off the porch, and she now gets the honor to help others do the same kind of work. Hello, Alicia. Great to see you.
Hello, it's awesome to be here.
It's really wonderful to be here with you. Alicia and I haven't connected in a little while, and we're glad to, and we're going to hop right into this topic. Alicia, what is something that you believe to be true that others may not believe?
You know, it's interesting because the word in the question is what I believe others have a hard time with, and that is actually living in your truth, or if it is even possible to live in your truth. A lot of people are really scared and paralyzed from the fear of actually coming out and being who they really are. So a lot of us live behind masks and are afraid to, take the mask off. So I would say that that's the biggest thing that I absolutely believe is possible that a lot of people don't.
What does that mean, living in your truth?
Well, for me, it meant that in my journey, it was realizing that my life wasn't necessarily what I thought it was. And when that happened, it was like when I found out what that was, what do I do with it? And do I have the courage to face it? And that's usually the turning point for a lot of people. It's usually, I tell a lot of my clients, it's usually that big thing, that big boulder that hits you in the head. And then you're like, okay, I can try to really kind of heal this big gap in my head, or I can just put a Band-Aid on it. And you have a choice at that point. And kind of dealing with the healing part is the part of living in your truth and kind of figuring out even what that truth is.
So dealing with the healing part and figuring out what that truth is and what that healing is.
Yeah, because I don't think, honestly, you can really heal without facing all of that gook that's in there that's keeping you from really living your life authentically.
So we're here to talk about the gook. We'll be getting right deeply into the gook. Can you, for context, can you also share with us the name of your book, Getting Off the Porch? What does that refer to?
Oh, that's a really good question, because getting off the porch is the foundation of everything that I do. It's the name of my company. It's the name of my book. And it really came at a time when I had to discover what was keeping me back, not only in my career, but in my marriage and my parenting and everything. And what I realized in doing that work was that most of my adult life was spent on the porch. And the porch represented for me a place of safety, but also it was a place where I waited. I tell the story in the book, and actually the book started with a blog post, because when I got this, like, oh my God, this is what's been going on with me, I wrote a blog post about it. And it was called Getting Off the Porch, because when I was a little girl, I used to wait for my dad to pick me up. And there was a lot of times that my dad didn't show up. So I winded up sitting there and waiting. And what I realized in my life was that I was sitting there waiting for most of my adult life in the other relationships that I had. So I would overcompensate. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to do everything right so that the people in my world would not leave me on the porch. And I realized in doing that work that wasn't living authentically, because I wasn't allowing myself to just be who I was. I don't even know if I knew who I was at that time, because I was so afraid, if I'm not perfect, if I'm not this, if I'm not that, if my life wasn't perfect, then people will leave me. And I didn't want that. That was the most terrifying thing for me. But then I got to the point where I was like, well, you know what? If they leave, maybe they need to leave. I don't know. I got the courage to say, you know what? This is me. This is in all my imperfection. Either you're going to love me or you're going to leave me. And if you do choose to leave, that's okay.
Yeah, you're actually at that point okay getting off the porch.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But it took a while to get there. That was a journey. One was realizing what I was doing. And I would say my biggest motivation in getting off the porch was my children. because I wanted to break this cycle of unworthiness. And it had to start with me, because I could talk about it, but if I wasn't living it, then what am I teaching my children? And children see through everything. So once I got the courage to kind of face myself and even face them, I realized, oh, they didn't know how to articulate it, but they felt it. They felt my inauthentic self, and they celebrated me coming out into who I was. So that was probably the greatest gift that I got, even though it was the most terrifying, because they are the ones that showed me that no matter what, I'm going to love you. I'm never leaving you, Mom, because, and we like you actually more, not trying to be so perfect.
Alicia, thank you so much for giving that context. I'm struck by how in both things that you've described, just what you believe and about people living in their truth and living in your truth, and both in the title of your book, Getting Off the Porch, I'm struck by the thing that you've said. Both of them are about even finding that truth.
Yes.
Sometimes if you haven't even started, if there's something to heal and there's going to be a process, you might not even know what that truth is. Can you speak a little about that, whether in your situation or clients that you've worked with, that messiness of when you may not even know that you don't know what the truth is?
Yeah. So my book actually starts when it starts with that Boulder moment. That time, that thing that hit me on the head, right? And prior to that moment, I absolutely believed in every single thing about my life, or so I thought. I thought it was, I thought I was living the dream. The beautiful home, the beautiful family, the wonderful husband, the everything. I was living it and I believed in it until the boulder hit me. And that was when my life got turned upside down. And it was a huge, like, oh my God, like, it's not what I thought it was, but what is it? Because I put every single thing that I had into this. And now, okay, it's not quite what I thought it was. So now what? And when I started to, initially I went through the victim stage. It was like, oh my God, how could this happen to me? Oh my God, like, I'm such a good person and I'm so this and I'm so that and da 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 da. And once I got past the victim stage, it was time to really look in the mirror. And I realized, oh wow, I was in love with what I thought it was, but I had signs all along the way that it might not be quite that, but I was too scared to face it. And I was too scared to face myself. And so that's what it came down to. And that's what Getting Off the Porch is all about. It's about my journey into looking within and owning my part in my life, and that it was no one else's fault. And even the bad, quote unquote, bad things that happened to me, I had to take ownership of those. Now, and that's a big concept that a lot of people don't get, because when you take ownership of your part, it doesn't negate what anybody did to you. Okay. It's still awful, whatever that awful thing was or whatever, it's still awful. But when you can own your own part without looking at their part, that is when you can forgive yourself. And then you get the passion and you get the grace to forgive others, because you realize you had a part in your own place in where you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What was my contribution
Yeah.
to this awful situation?
Yeah.
Yeah. This may sound like a very meta question. I love the idea that you're describing. Here was my life and it was chugging along and I loved it. But when I saw the truth, I saw what was wrong about it. How do you not know that you're not in a similar situation right now, or any of us aren't? How do we know we're actually at the truth?
It's so funny you say that. And I think that it's a never ending journey. And I really tell all of my clients and anyone that reads my book, it's you're going to go in and off and out of the porch so many times.
I love that. I just want to pause for a second. You're going to sit on that porch and you might be waiting, even if you told yourself, I don't wait anymore. And you might get off that porch and you might get back on.
Right. But what I have learned in my own journey is that, even because I have, since I've written the book, I've been back on that porch. But what I know now is that, one, I don't stay as long. And two, I get real uncomfortable. And when I get uncomfortable now, I'm not afraid of that feeling. Now it's like, okay, this is a sign you have some work to do. There's time, something's not feeling right. So now I pay attention. I pay attention to my body. I pay attention to, anxiety. If I get anxiety now, I'm like, okay, this is the universe speaking to me. There's some work you need to do. What's going on? And I have had to do that. And I really explain that to all of my clients when I work with them, is that don't think that there's a destination of getting off the porch. You're going to get off the porch, you're going to fly. And then there's going to be other times when you need to get back on that porch to gain the clarity to get off of it again.
I really love that. Say that again.
Did that answer the question?
It did. I really love that. So that it's not really a destination of getting off the porch. It will happen again and again. And that's actually, I'm just going to put that up. That's actually part of resilience, that you anticipate this is going to, maybe not this exact same thing, but something is going to happen. I may have to wait on that porch, even though I hate waiting on that porch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's almost like I think Ayanna Levanzant is one of the people that talk about in the valley. And, it's the same concept on the porch, in the valley. You're going to always have those moments in your journey. Even when things are great, there are going to be times when you fall off or something is triggered, and that's okay, because we're human, and you're always growing, you're always learning. And that's just a sign that it's going to happen. And I have found that I have grown the most, of course, looking back, because when you're in the valley, you want to get the hell out of there. But when you look back, you realize that is where I learned the most, and that's where I grew the most, and that's what I value the most of who I am now. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think now it's just, I'm not afraid of the porch anymore, and I'm not afraid of the valleys. It's like, okay, bring it on. I know that I can do it because I've done it before, and I can do it again.
You can do it because you've done it before, and you also know what to look for. You're saying, I get back off it faster. I feel that uncomfort. Mm-hmm. Earlier.
Absolutely.
I have so many questions for you. I'm going to ask you about living in your truth for negative or positive situations. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to ask you, just to prep a little bit for the people with us today, what are the specific steps someone should take if they actually may have been on the porch a little too long? And then for the people who are here with us, when have you gotten off the porch? When have you actually done that? Or what one specific step have you done to get off the porch? Let us know in the comments. Alicia will get to that in just a moment.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love to get some hear other people's stories.
What are people? Yeah. What have people?
Yeah.
So living in your truth.
Okay.
That, sometimes, and as you've said, that it's about discovering something that's not quite working or something you need to heal, and then figuring out what your truth is. What about if people are actually in a good place? Is that also living in your truth, or is that not? Is that just a different concept?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Right now, in this moment, I am living in my truth, and I wouldn't change a thing about my life right now. And I'm so happy. I've had the opportunity through all of my work to be able to, when I decided to become a coach, I wasn't sure if I could actually sustain a life being a coach. It was a new world to me, and it's a new world even as a profession. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so I really get to, on a daily basis, use all the tools that I've learned through my journey to help other people. And I mean, I get paid to do that. And like, wow. All right. So I feel like I'm living in my truth. But at the same time, do I still have struggles? Absolutely. I don't think that there's ever been a time, whether on the porch or off the porch, where I'm not working on something or seeing something that needs a couple of tweaks, or whether it's even with my fitness, like we talked about earlier, with my fitness routine, or just learning to be, have grace. And one of the things you talked about was, the positive and the negative. Sometimes we apologize because we feel bad about celebrating the truth, right? Okay, well, I've been through this. And so that's another thing I do, like on social media. If I'm having a bad day, because social media is my brand and I want to live my brand. So if I'm having a bad day or I'm having a challenge, I'll write about it and I'll share it, because I want people to see that, yeah, I've done a lot of work and things look great, but guess what? I still fall down too. and so will you, and then you get back up again. And it's just a continuous thing. So when I fall off, I share it. And people that follow me know I'll write a blog post and they're like, oh, wow. So I share I do believe that that's my superpower. I don't have an issue with being vulnerable and sharing my ups, my downs, my challenges. And I do that because I feel like when I do that, it so gives other people the permission to do it as well. And that is like so empowering when you can just share it and then other people can grow from it and even get the courage to do it themselves. That's when you say, oh, wow, okay, there is something to living in your truth and living and just putting it out there. There's just so much power in it.
Alicia, take us through the first 1 to 3 steps that someone should do if they are on the porch. If they, whatever bad situation that it is, if they know they need to start to get off, like your boulder moment, but they haven't yet, what are 1 to 3 first things that they should do?
So I can tell you some of the things that I did in the beginning. I think that's most helpful. The first thing is awareness. And if anyone that has a counseling background, you learn about awareness pretty early on. And awareness is this thing that is powerful and scary because once you are aware, you have to make a choice. Right?
It's the boulder. Yeah.
Right. When you are in oblivion, you don't have a choice to make. But once you're aware, that's the hard part. And so I would say the first step is awareness and paying attention. Still part of number 1 is paying attention to what's going on inside of you. The second part is getting support, learning to share what's going on with you, whether or not it's a friend or a family member, or even deciding to get a coach or therapy. Like those are really huge parts because a lot of getting off the porch is digging into that muck. And sometimes you need some help to kind of get through it. And an objective person is really helpful. And so I do want to share that I've been through therapy. I've had coaches, and I could not have done this without my family support. And even those people, there have been people that walked away when I got off the porch, but the ones that stayed, oh my goodness, the relationships got even deeper and I got to see them and they got to see me. And that's what's amazing about it. So getting support is huge. And another step, there's so many steps, but we're just going to do 3. Another step is journaling, writing, and exercise were probably 2 of the biggest things that helped me through my own journey. I started running. It's also part of the book. Running was a huge part of my evolution. And when I would run, you can keep it as number 3 as journaling. But when I would run, that's when like my heart was open and I could hear like the universe speaking to me. And then I could go and journal about it. And let it out.
So I'm actually really glad you brought that up because I almost feel like people break down into 2 kinds in terms of journaling. For some, it's very authentic and it's very real and it's easy. And for some, it's such a chore, even if they know it's the right thing. What can those people do about the similar experience of journaling without actually, I'm really asking because I do know people that push back, oh, I wish I could, but it's a block for me.
Yeah, so journaling can be tough, especially if you're not a writer. For writers, I think it comes a little bit more natural. But if you're not a writer, I think that journaling is so therapeutic. And I would just say, don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about any of that. You just write what's on your heart. And a lot of times, journaling has helped me when I have irrational thoughts too. So like if I can't sleep at night or something, I'll get up and I'll write everything down. And then maybe in the morning, I'll look at it and I'm like, oh my God, none of that is true. So it helps you kind of get a grasp on what you're thinking. Another thing is so interesting that you asked, because I have one here. I like prompts because that can help people who are struggling with journaling. And I use this happiness journal. And it's like a page and it prompts you. It has like fall in love with being good to yourself. How might you be gooder to you? And then you can write about it. So I love this one, especially for people who are having a hard time. And this is not a sales pitch, but I have a journal to my book also, which can help people chapter by chapter go through their own journey. Because what has happened when people are reading my book, they'll say, because we all have different stories. It's just that my story might trigger something for them. So so I've created a journal so that they can start their own journey off of their own porch and put their story into, writing.
That's really helpful. So to summarize, it's awareness of the situation, which sort of puts you in a place that you may need to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting support or sharing with friends, whatever support may mean to you, family, therapy, coaching, other things. Could even be the next one, which is journaling. So journaling and exercise.
Yeah. And I would also add to number 3, meditation, if that's something that you do. I know that for me, I like guided meditations. I use Insight Timer. I'll do their courses. And it just helps me even now work on that inner self, because it's a never ending journey, like, that we've mentioned already.
Alicia, I have so many more questions for you. Our last 2 questions. So second to last. For the people who are with us today and who agree and who say, okay, I'm a believer. I'm going to do what Alicia's saying. I'm going to do living in your truth, whether it's my bad stuff or my good stuff, whatever it is. What thought would you like to leave everyone with?
Oh, that's a big one. I would say be brave. I write that in every single one of my books when I'm signing, and it's be brave, because living in your truth takes courage. And if you can get the courage to face yourself and be who you are, I promise you it's worth it. Your life may not look like it looks now, but it could possibly look 100 times better. That's what I would leave.
I love that that's what you signed the books with. Be brave, Alicia.
Be brave. Live, find and live your truth.
And our last question. If you could snap your fingers and almost everyone in the world were to take some action, what action would you want that to be?
I would start with waking up, looking in the mirror, and telling yourself, I am worthy and I am enough, every single day. That would be a great action, because once you start there, you can go off into the world and do whatever it is that you need to do once you realize you're worthy and enough to do it.
Just repeat that baseline. Get that baseline for yourself in the morning.
Yes. Every day.
Yeah. Alicia Booker, thank you so very much. It's been wonderful having you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And let's continue to stay connected, because I love everything that you're doing as well.
Same here. Same here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. I wanted to play the music.